And as we continue on with Capital Outlook, it's time for another Capital Outlook profile, and we're pleased to be joined by Representative Chuck Gray. Representative Gray, you represent the constituents of House District 57 in Natrona County. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I always enjoy long-form journalism, and this is a great opportunity. Thank you.
You're sure welcome. You're not the youngest member of the Wyoming legislature anymore. We were talking off camera, but you're about the youngest. Did you see yourself serving just 10 years ago when, heck, you were still in college?
No, I wanted to get involved in small business. My family's radio business, that's originally what I was focused on. But I started to get involved around 2013, 2014. I was very concerned, as I am now, about our state's fiscal position, where you look at the history of the general fund, where you had biennial to biennial growth of 40 to 50% within single agencies. And it was a period when we were flush, and I thought we needed to be saving more at a time when a lot of the newspaper media had that mantra about when do we know what's a rainy day? That was the mantra they were repeating in 2012, 2013, 2014. Well, my feeling was if you're asking the question, it means we're probably not in a rainy day. And so I got involved thinking we need to be saving more.
Give us an idea where you grew up, Chuck. Where'd you go to high school?
Well, I went to high school. Loyola High School was the high school I went to. It was a Catholic school. And then I went to college there at Wharton at the University of Pennsylvania, studied business. And after that came in my family's radio business, wanted to get involved with that. So I was 22, started with that, and then became a precinct person in the Republican Party here in Natrona County in Casper, and then became more involved in county party activities in 2014. Ran for the legislature, was very close, but was a little bit short. It was a great experience learning how to campaign, how to get out there. I love the door-to-door interaction. I love the interaction with my neighbors, my constituents. It's really just something I enjoy so much about this job. The phone calls, the talking on their door, the emails. It's not always, I'll tell you, you go on Twitter, I mean, there's a lot of people that don't like my perspective. There's no question about that. But I like engaging in that discussion, and the radio background has sort of amplified that. So
you ran initially calling yourself an outsider.
Mm-hmm.
Do you still feel like you're an outsider?
Absolutely. I think I bring a different perspective in terms of the spending. I think that our spending, frankly, at the state level, there's a lot of room for reduction.
I want to ask you a quick question about that, Representative Gray, and we're going to ask about your service now on the Revenue Committee, which to me is almost like an oxymoron. Representative Gray, Revenue Committee, and we'll talk about that in just a second. But I want to dig a little bit deeper there. About a decade ago, the general government funds spent about $1 billion more than it was today. So expand upon, what you have just talked about Wyoming's still fiscal challenges with its spending.
Well, the challenge in the way it's presented is the comparison point is usually 2013 to 2014, where we started to have this sort of, if you look at it as a line inflation adjusted, it's sort of this plateauing, this upward plateauing. Yes, there's a growth there, but it's an upward plateauing as opposed to the last 20 years. And if you look at the last 20 years, that 2004 biennia, that 2006 biennia, and especially, and to some extent that 2002 biennia, we were seeing 40 to 50% growth within the agencies, and that's across the board. You can look at 100 series in workforce, or you can look at 900 series, which is the contractual series for these agencies, where they go out and contract out with an outside source, an outside contractor to do the work of the agency. It was across the board. It was within the agency in terms of 100 series growth and 900 series growth. And that's never really been corrected for. So the right comparison, it's all about your comparison point. Are you comparing to 2014? Are you comparing to 2016? I've seen that comparison too. Are you comparing to 2000 or 2002? If you compare inflation adjusted to 2000 or 2002, your percentage growth agency to agency is going to be a lot higher. And the reality is that Wyoming still has, I mean, depending on how you calculate for the Alaska, the oil share they send out to Alaska citizens, which is a little different from the oil and gas, the mineral severance share. We still have in Wyoming the highest per capita spend. And yes, we have a rural population, and that's great. But look at South Dakota, their per capita spend, which is a lot lower. I mean, I'm not saying that we compare to states that have more scale. There's no question there's less scale in Wyoming, but should Wyoming really rank as the highest per capita spend? I think that is not consistent with our conservative values.
So let's twist it a little bit here and go to your service now on the Revenue Committee, which was, when I looked at the committee appointments across the board, to me, quite honestly, that was the biggest surprise that I saw, that you were assigned that committee. Perhaps you wanted that committee. And you have said this, you have said that I oppose these tax increase attempts and will continue to actively work to stop them. So what do you hope to accomplish on the Revenue Committee? Why are you there?
What I want to talk about is on the committee is two things. One, what are our revenue flows, which is a very important point. The fact that, and we're going to talk about the SIPA distribution. SIPA is an account that funds basically all these state building projects, which frankly, most of which we can't afford right now. And it was an account that was created when we were flush. Those revenues should be distributed to our rainy day account, our cash savings account, to flow into the deficits that we have. The biggest one, of course, is the school foundation program account. There's a lot of property tax issues that I think we're seeing across the state. So that's a second area that I really wanted to go on the Revenue Committee.
We're filming this just before the session resumes here in the legislature. And just yesterday, Rush Limbaugh passed away, and he has been, in a way, a mentor to you. You've reflected that he's one of the reasons that are an inspiration for you to become the conservative talk show host that you try to do when you're not running for office.
Yeah, Rush it's just tragic what happened, and Rush has been a huge inspiration for me. I think about when
did you first start listening to him?
Oh, it was 6 years old. I mean, and how good he has been at that craft. It's amazing. When I started the radio show, all the difficulties that came with that as I was trying to get better and better, and listening to Rush, hearing how he mastered the conservative talk radio craft. I mean, he created it basically, and just he's an American patriot, a legend, and a huge inspiration in my life. I wouldn't be here without his inspiration. There's no question. The conservative movement wouldn't be here either. And it's a huge loss.
This session, and then maybe the upcoming session, Wyoming may get a federal bailout to some extent if in the COVID act that President Biden is pushing has aid to local and state governments. What should Wyoming's response be to that aid? How do you perceive it should be used?
Well, I think any aid that Wyoming does receive needs to be distributed to the citizens. I had an amendment in the COVID special session that would have provided property tax relief and some sales tax relief to Wyoming citizens with the COVID monies, and that was defeated. So I think this idea of growing government with the COVID monies is wrong. I do not think the federal government should be in the business of bailing out states. I am opposed to that. I've signed on to some letters about that. I think that Wyoming, while we do have our fiscal challenges, it's nowhere near like these left-wing states like California and New York. And
the question I want to ask you, is this going to hinder Wyoming's ability to find its way forward, do you think?
Well, I think it certainly, if our state becomes reliant on federal funds, I'm opposed to that. And I see that you can go through bills all the time that pass that I've been against. The strings attached on these funds oftentimes aren't talked about too much in the media.
Sure.
And also the debt at the federal level that we're running up, that we're leaving our children and grandchildren. And I want to be part of the solution on this. One of the reasons I got involved in politics, I want to be part of the solution on the spending, not just say more from the federal government. No, we need to get a balanced budget. We need term limits. Another thing I've been working on at the state level, and I think we need at the federal level too. We need these controls.
So Representative Gray, you're a member of the Freedom Caucus. What is the Freedom Caucus? You meet, you organize a little bit. What are you hoping to do as you craft your way through this session?
Well, this is a concept that has been there since I've started in the legislature. It's gotten a little more media attention, but conservative members, we meet, talk about how we can be effective. And I think that's important. We want to be effective as conservatives in the legislature. So I think that's sort of what that is. We've always had meetings, informal, more formal, but we've always kind of met, talked about what bills we're doing, what are our concerns, and then there's informal meetings across the entire state legislature. So it's more just meetings that have happened. I mean, I think that there were some things that went out that formalized it a little more, and that's fine. But really, it's about camaraderie around issues, talking about issues, trying to have that discussion. Where some areas that say you're working on, and that leads to discussion
Sure.
in another area. So it's collaborative, and it's trying to bring conservative policy and reach our full potential in bringing conservative policy to the legislative process.
You know, you speak of camaraderie. Have you missed meeting in person in this world of Zoom and COVID?
Yes, absolutely, Craig. I mean, I have major concerns too with the way that the meetings have occurred. So I was there. I mean, you saw it in the thing. I was there on the floor, and am very excited that we're going to be meeting in person on March 1st. We need to get the work done for the citizens, people of Wyoming, our neighbors, the work that we do, and it's very important. And I'm excited about the upcoming general session.
Representative Gray, it is always a pleasure for me to visit with you. Certainly one of the most conservative members of the Wyoming legislature. I appreciate your points of view, and I appreciate your thought in what you put into what you say. So thank you for joining us on this Capital Outlook profile.
Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate you having me on. Thank you.